Hello, my name is Tim Lahili, and in this video, we're going to be talking about the September release of Quincy. As always in our release videos, let's do a quick overview of what's happened. We've had 11 changes, 23 new features, and 55 fixes, so for a total of 89 things. I'm particularly proud of this release. There are quite a lot of impactful features in it, so let's talk about some of those. As always, I've divided them between our two markets and QView. Again, these features apply across markets, but what the heck? For grouping's sake, we'll leave it this way. Anyway, here in the forensics, we've got a chat translation view, which I'll show. It's hard to explain. PRTK we have enabled, so you can now run PRTK directly from Quincy if you have a PRTK license. We've enabled you to change the time zone of the grid. We've put the Quincy parsing capabilities directly into the Quincy processing engine, so you can now just click a button there. And we've done a big step up in terms of our entity capability. We've introduced the ability to PDF chat messages. What that means is to turn a chat conversation into a physical PDF that you can then produce. That's significant because chat messages really don't have a native form, if you will. They're generally extracted out of a database. So you really don't have a lot of good options in terms of printing the overall chat. So with this capability, it solves that problem. We've stepped up our auto processing capabilities. We've added some additional AI capabilities in terms of Hercule Suggest. We've added optional grid filters, and then in QView we've enabled multi-case viewing, and we've done some UI cleanup. As always, all of these key topics have their own video, so if you're interested in any particular one, please go refer to that specific video. I'm just going to touch on a few of them here, the ones I think are a little bit more impactful. So let's just hop into the tool and do that. So I have Quincy open. I have no case selected. Let's start out with our chat case. I'm going to load that case, and I'm going to open up the grid here. And I'm going to start off just by showing you that chat translation capability. So I got to find my chats. Here are some chats. Let's select that one. Open our viewer now. And you can see it's going to render that that chat here just as in the HTML viewer. And if we want, we can go ahead and load the whole chat conversation between Sebastian Moran and James Moriarty. And I gather it's all in Russian. So if you come over here to translation, you can see actually we've done a fair bit of improvement in our translation capability. We've got doc translation, and we have chat translation. The chat translation feature is pretty robust. If you really want to know how it works, please refer to that specific video. But it provides you a bunch of different tools for sort of attaching translation to these various messages. So you can see like this one, I typed this word equals hello. Now, of course, I don't know if that word does in fact equal hello. But if I wanted to go ahead and edit that, I could edit it and say hello and goodbye, and then just save that. And then you can see that there is now a log showing those different translations. And if I wanted to load it, I could go ahead and click on that, and that will revert back to the old, or I can click on that and there. So anyway, there's a lot going on here. I'm not going to show all of it. Please refer to that video if you're interested, but it is a real step forward in our capability there. While we're on a chat, let's talk about PDFing them. So if you wanted to get this conversation out, your options would be very limited. Historically, now you can simply click PDF, and it will build a PDF out of this conversation and put the whole thing in the native of the first message, and it'll tell you which message it's attaching it to, but in this case it would be this one. But that's pretty straightforward, nothing particularly exciting to look at. Let's jump to entities. That's well, actually, let's do grid time zone while we've got some data loaded here. Okay, so we can see here's our grid with a bunch of different dates. The time zone of these dates is the time zone of whatever the browser is. But if we want to change that, we can click up here and you can see it's browser time zone here. And we can go and sort of scroll through the time zones. Let's make it New York time. So we can see that this first date is 5:57 p.m. and we apply that. And now it's 7:57 p.m. which makes sense because this browser is in U.S. Central Time, New York is in Eastern Standard Time, and that's 2 hours different, and that is exactly what we saw. And then it will leave it that way until you change it, frankly. So that's time zones. Let's talk about some of the processing capabilities we now have, or that we've added. So open up this, and there are two new things. If we go to Quincy Jobs, we can see both our Quincy parser capability. These are all the parsers we had aggregated into one now sort of generic, if you will, a selection that will parse all the messages that the parser supports. And you can refer to the Quincy website for what's supported. And then we also have DNA PRTK. And this will decrypt any messages in your case, assuming you have a DNA PRTK license. If you don't, then you're out of luck and it won't help you. But if you do, open your DNA PRTK and process it with this selected, and boom, it will send it to DNA, to PRTK, and when it is done, PRTK will in turn send it back and replace the native object with the decrypted version. So that's that. So let's see what else is worth showing. Let's talk about entities because we've done a lot there in our Hercule. We've really stepped up what we can offer in terms of entities. Now, if you want to create an entity, you can associate people, communications, searches, and locations with it. It's just as straightforward as coming through here, entering the people information you want, the communication information, searches you could support greps, you could support Boolean searches, whatever. Location, there's a pretty cool map here, and you could select areas, which you do, I think, by pressing Control and then clicking in it, and that will load the geolocation, if you will, of that area. I'm sorry. And then you can give it a name, whatever, America, and save it, and it will become part of your entity. And this allows you to bundle up a bunch of different things and call them a single entity and have them pulled out in the social analyzer and things like that. But again, there's a lot going on in terms of this capability, so refer to the specific video if you're interested. There's also now Hercule Suggest, and you can see a bunch of generic suggestions, deleted files, encrypted files, all that kind of stuff. These are just filters. You can get to them through here or any number of different ways. But what I wanted to show you here is this Hercule Suggest capability. This will make suggestions based on what you've already reviewed. So if you've reviewed 500 documents and you've coded them responsive and not responsive, or you coded them Bob and Tim, and you come in here and you say, okay, Bob, I want to give this one, and Tim, I want to give another one. And not responsive is, you wouldn't call it job 2012 because you've called that responsive. It will go through and it will figure out what is unique about those documents and build a decision tree for you and make some suggestions. It's pretty cool, frankly. Again, I would refer you to the dedicated video to that. Auto processing is probably worth touching on, and auto filtering. So auto processing is right here in system administration. Come to auto processing. We've had this capability for a while. This allows you to point Quincy at a specific directory, and then any folders within that directory get automatically turned into cases, and the contents of those folders get automatically processed. We have enhanced that capability to include this idea of client folders. So again, you would pick your processing folder, but then underneath them, if you have clients folder selected, the subfolders become clients, not actual cases. And then the folders in those subfolders, those client folders, in turn become cases. This allows you to add a level of specification and a level of organization to the old system. Basically, it could say, okay, we can call this one folder, we could call it murder cases. Another folder we could call tax evasion. We could assign different processing option to each of those based on what we need for those. Or we could assign, one folder client A, the next folder client B, and each party wants his data processed slightly differently. So this is enabled by that. And then let's talk about grid filters. So we've long had this capability to introduce a filter. There are videos on this filtering, but again, refer to the dedicated video if you want to see this new stuff. But what we've added here is this grid option. You can leave it off. You do nothing, it will behave the way it used to behave. If you select grid on, it will show up by default in the grid as a filter that is on. So if you sort of remove, let's say, all folders, and you wanted that to always be the default condition, it would be a filter in the grid that's always on. Or you could put it grid off. And if you do grid off, what this says is that it will be in the grid dropdown, but it won't be applied by default. So the user will have to go in and actually click that if they want to apply it. So that's what that is. That's the enhanced capability we've done there. I think actually that makes this significantly more powerful. So again, refer to the dedicated video if you want to see how it can be used. So those are the key features of this release. But there's really a lot going on. I think I've really undersold these features. Again, I'm pretty darn proud of this release. So I'd really encourage you, if any of those sort of piqued your interest, to dig into the dedicated video and see the full extent of it, because each one of these is sort of a 5 to 10 minute topic that, listen, I've glossed over in like 5 seconds for each of them. So there's a lot more to learn. But anyway, I hope that was a good overview and has at least piqued your interest. And thank you very much for your time.